Today we're doing a very fun video, so we're going to be ranking my emergency room experiences. Let's get right into it. These are not in any order here, so I'm just gonna be grabbing random ones. Let's start with this one. Stitch going through my eye. I was getting ready to go to school in the morning and suddenly I got a horrible pain in my eye. Before this, I had already gotten multiple eye surgeries. I think I was in maybe 3rd grade. My parents tried to look into my eye. I couldn't keep my eye open. So off to the ER we went. It turned out that one of the stitches that they had put in my eye had somehow moved and it was poking through my eye. But it was actually extremely easily fixable. So the doctor literally just numbed my eye, took surgical scissors, opened my eye, pressed the scissors onto my eye and just cut it. That was it, and the pain immediately stopped. Because of that, I would rank the pain. It hurt, but I wasn't like writhing in pain, so I would say 5 out of 10. Fear, I mean, I was a bit worried, but I feel like as a child, these things are much easier because you haven't gained consciousness yet. You are not aware of all the things that could go wrong. So I would say like 3 out of 10. General vitutus that I felt, that was also pretty low because I got to skip school. I would say like 1 out of 10. The general ambiance at the time, both of my parents came with me and I could see that they were like way more freaked out than me, which made me feel a bit freaked out, but also made me feel like I need to be very strong and very brave for them. So the overall ambiance, not too shabby, maybe like 8 out of 10. Would I say it was funny in the moment? Maybe. No. For now, I will put it here. Okay, next one. Want that to hit harder? Okay. Moving on to something heart related, getting an A-fib, which means atrial fibrillations. I got it after my open heart surgery, and if you're interested to hear more about that, I have made a whole video about what open heart surgery was like. What made this one memorable was that I was in the ER, not even joking, I think 7 hours. The ER room where I was at was open concept, so we only had these very thin curtains separating everyone. This poor old man who was next to me in his bed kept defecating on himself, and obviously like the nurses, everyone was doing the best they can, but while this is happening, I'm also just having this A-fib, so I'm extremely out of breath. I'm really dizzy. I'm not sure if I was running a fever at this point because I also had an infection in my heart that was going undiagnosed, so I'm not completely sure if I already had it going on here. The only way that they could treat the A-fib at the time was to put me under and give me a shock. They can't do that if you've recently eaten, so they had to wait. I think it was like 4 hours that we had to wait just for there to be like enough time between eating and putting me to sleep. I was just lying there, couldn't really do anything, couldn't go anywhere because I'm connected to all these machines. I mean, the wait was absolutely horrible. After they actually wheeled me off to a different room to put me to sleep and give me that shock, when I woke up, ooh, that was nice. They give you painkillers and all this stuff to relax you. That was easily like the best high I've ever had. So that definitely bumps up the experience in my heart. How much pain I was in? It wasn't really that painful. It was just making me nauseous. So maybe 2 out of 10. How afraid I was. I'll be honest, at this point my recovery had already been hell and I was in a constant state of anxiety and being completely convinced that I was going to drop dead any minute, so maybe like 7 out of 10. And the general vitutus that I had, like 8 out of 10. I was very done. The general ambiance, not optimal, 2 out of 10. I feel like it could have been worse in some way. I'm not sure which way. I think it altered my psyche, but not just in a bad way, but actually also in a good way. Let's do a quick one. Getting arrhythmia the night before graduation was a high school graduation, and it was also during COVID actually. I got it in the evening and I was in the ER until 6 in the morning, and they didn't really even end up doing anything, if I remember correctly, because it was just arrhythmia and I get that on and off, but I'm just very paranoid after those A-fibs. I tend to be a bit of a hypochondriac when it comes to that. And just for that reason, I think I could have stayed home, maybe wasted everyone's time a little bit. Okay, now we're kind of getting into the juicy stuff. So let's do eye full of blood neck. This actually happened a couple of times. What this is referring to is, as I mentioned earlier, I've had a ton of eye surgeries ever since I was very young. And one of the things that they've done is that they've replaced my lenses. So I have artificial lenses in both of my eyes. When I got it done when I was very young, they were using a different technique to attach the lenses compared to what they use now. They figured out that the way that they were doing it is maybe not optimal. That's what leads into this. So the lens that they had put in was actually rubbing on my iris. You can see that the lens actually rubbed off the pigment in my iris. So now, like around my pupil, you can see that it looks distorted, and that's because it doesn't have any of the blue pigment that I otherwise have. Because of that, obviously you have little veins around in your iris, and it completely destroyed those veins. So my eye got filled up with blood. I was hanging out with my friend. I was actually doing her makeup, and suddenly my vision started going like blurrier and blurrier until I couldn't see at all. I mean, at the actual ER, we also waited so long. I think like 8 hours. It was one of the longest waits. And when they finally took me in, they just looked in there. They were like, yeah, the lens is rubbing on it and we can't really do anything about it. So let's just wait a couple weeks and the blood will drain out on its own. And it did, but it took a long time and it really sucked because I literally could not see anything with it. And then when it started draining out slowly, I just saw these black dots everywhere. That was the little blood particles floating in there. And I still see those a bit. So I don't know what that's about, but okay, pain. It didn't hurt at all, so 0 out of 10. How afraid I was pretty afraid. I think 8 out of 10. I mean, the idea of losing my vision is super devastating to me, obviously. The overall vitutus, I think I was way more afraid than vituntunut, so 5 out of 10. General ambiance, a feeling of dread, but outwards very calm, 5 out of 10. With that in mind, I'm going to put it in the same old category. This was after my open heart surgery. If you've ever been put under, you know that before you get discharged from the hospital, they need to make sure that you can pee, because you can literally like forget how to do that. When I got discharged, I could pee. It was completely fine. But then when I got home and I was home for a couple days, I realized that I could not pee anymore. It's such a weird feeling because you literally, your brain doesn't know how to do it. Obviously, it's not good not to pee because it can go to your kidneys. We had to go to the ER to get a catheter. Actually, this ER visit wasn't that bad. We got in and out quite quick because it was clear what was the issue. So pain, not necessarily pain, but definitely discomfort, like heavy discomfort. I think 6 out of 10. Like your stomach physically hurts from stretching. How scared I was? Honestly, at this stage, I did not really give a single shit. So 1 out of 10. General vitutus. Also, I was just happy to go and get the pee out, so also wasn't feeling that annoyed. Maybe 2 out of 10. General ambiance, it was efficient, it was quick. I was with my mom, I think, and we were in and out very efficiently. So I think the ambiance was quite good. 7 out of 10. And I think this was already funny in the moment because it's like, girl, excuse me. Okay, never mind. Let's do this one first because it leads into the retina tear. So to paint you a picture, I was at my now ex-boyfriend's friend's place, who I had just met, and we were having like a little get together slash party. So everyone had been drinking the night before, me including. First of all, I slept like shit. We slept on a mattress on the floor. It was so hot. It just was not comfortable. So I already slept like shit. I woke up with a horrible hangover. I was the first person up, and I think at this point it was like really early in the morning. So I get up and I immediately notice there is something strange happening with my right eye. I'm seeing like this lightning, and I get migraines. So my first thought was that it was auras, but it was very different to what I had experienced before. I'm there going to the bathroom again, super hungover. I realized that no, there is something really wrong with my eye. So I called the emergency room number, and they tell me like, yeah, you need to come to the hospital. The problem is everyone is super hungover. I'm at this place for the first time ever, and it is not in my hometown. So I call my parents and I'm like, you need to come pick me up and take me to the hospital. They can like tell that I'm hungover, which, you know, not a crime, but also not optimal in this situation. I'm the only person up. So I go over to my then boyfriend and I'm like, I'm going to the hospital. My parents are picking me up soon. And he's confused as fuck, like, what the hell is happening? But at this point, I'm so panicked and in my head that I don't even feel like explaining anything to anyone. So I'm just like packing my shit and going outside to wait. And my parents pull up. When I get into the car, they're like, wow, like, you're in rough shape. Oh, I felt too. Sitting at the ER again, it was like 5 or 6 hours minimum with a banging hangover is... Whew. So when I actually see the doctor finally, they tell me that my Vitreum is detaching. And this in itself, believe it or not, is not dangerous. And it can happen to just like regular people too, even if you don't have a pre-existing condition, especially like at an older age. They usually don't do anything about it, but in my case, because my anatomy is different because of Marfan, there was a chance that it would foreshadowing that it would also tear my retina with it. So they basically sent me home just with a pat on the back and an order to contact them if anything changes. To rank this experience, what was the pain? Again, it didn't actually hurt, but I was really hungover. I'm very bad with nausea, like I just cannot handle it. Having that and having to sit in the ER, I feel like I just completely blacked out because I feel like I can't even really remember anything from actually sitting in the ER. I think I was dissociating for the whole 6 hours. Pain scale, just for the nausea, is 6 out of 10. It was pretty bad. I was again really afraid for my eye, but I was also afraid of my parents. I mean, it's not like drinking is a big thing or prohibited in their eyes, but it is a bit of a oof moment when you have to take your super hungover 21-year-old daughter to the ER for the mental damage that I took. Maybe the fear factor is also maybe 5 out of 10. The vitutus that I felt, that was pretty high, 7 out of 10. The general ambiance, I mean, it was complete ass, a 1 out of 10, honestly. Taking all that into consideration, this is the first one to go to, I'd rather do 50 clam slams on broken glass, because fuck that whole experience. I never want to go through that again. So this is what the whole previous story was leading up to. So you gotta understand that this had like a huge build up to it, from the Vitreum detaching all the way to this. It took like a month or something, and me going to the ER constantly because the vision kept being weird and like not going back to normal as they said that it would. The final time that I was at the emergency room because of this was when one morning I woke up and I realized that like half of my vision looked like honey And I know that that sounds so weird. It genuinely looked as if I was looking through honey. Like my whole, not my whole, but like half of my field of vision was distorted and yellow. And that's when I was like, this is new. That's when they took one look at it and said, oh yeah, the retina has a tear in it. And this is very serious and we need to operate on it in the morning. So this was in the evening and they said, yeah, we're gonna get you in the operating room by next morning. That made my heart drop. If you know anything about retina tears, then yeah, it is very serious. And if that whole thing gets detached, then you go blind. In my case, I was lucky, well, you know, in a way, because it only had a tear in it. It didn't actually like detach completely. But at the ER, what they decided to do was laser the retina. They have this machine, you lean your head in it, they numb your eye, and then they have this like lens thing that they put on your eye. So it's like on your eyeball and they like, you know, can swirl it around. And then from this machine, they literally shoot like a laser into your eye to create scar tissue in an attempt to strengthen the weak points. So that's what they did. And this shit hurts. Like the lens on your eye doesn't hurt because your like the exterior of your eye is numb, but the actual lasering hurts so bad. I had like tears streaming down my face. It was actually really awful. Anything meant to hear? Apparently the mic cut off at the end, so we're gonna do the rating now. First of all, the pain. The retina tearing itself like didn't actually hurt, but like I explained, the actual lasering hurt so fucking bad that honestly, for that, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10 because it was really horrible. It's like a burning sensation in the back of your eye. Would not recommend. Then the fear, this had like a huge build up to it, so I was kind of already really freaked out. And then when this finally happened, it just confirmed like all the fears that I had been having. The fear factor was pretty high. I'd also say maybe 8 out of 10. Was like completely convinced that I was gonna lose that eye, that I was just gonna lose the vision completely. So how vittuntunut I was annoyed, but it was mostly just because all the doctors kept telling me that it's okay and it's just a Vitreum. And then when it turned out not to be, that kind of pissed me off. Like obviously doctors are not super human. They also make mistakes. I wish I had been better prepared. So for Vitutus, 5 out of 10. The general ambiance. We were there in the evening. If I remember correctly, it was a bit quieter, but it still took a long time. I think I was with both of my parents. They were also super stressed out at this point. So I'd say the ambiance wasn't the best. 4 out of 10. I don't know, I feel like it could have also been worse. Based on all of this, you can probably imagine that this is going to the very top. Climb slams on broken glass any day of the week rather than doing that shit again. So that was my ranking. Let me know if you guys like this video. I have so many more ER experiences and medical stuff in general that I could rank. So if you found this entertaining, then I'll be sure to make a part 2. I'll give a tiny health update here at the end. If you watch my shorts, you will know that I actually have to have another open heart surgery done. There's no timeline yet or anything. I'm gonna have an MRI soon. I'll keep you guys posted. If you've seen my other videos, you know that my previous heart surgery was extremely rough for me, mentally and physically. So I'm a bit iffy about sharing too much, but I mean, if you guys are interested, then I will do my best. But again, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any medical experiences and how you would rank them based on this chart that I made. Hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye.